actually will make it in the final copy. I don't know. But I'm having a wonderful time with this book. One of the settings is basically an island of Navajo culture in south central New Mexico. It's an area called the Alamo Navajo Reservation. And there are a lot of stories about how it happened that there's maybe 10,000 people who live on this little, maybe not even that many, who live on this reservation. There are a lot of stories about how it happened that these people are there. And some of the stories are rather derogatory. The Navajos were imprisoned down in southern New Mexico, and it was about a 300-mile walk when they were finally released back to their own homeland. And so one story is that these people who settled in Alamo just got tired of walking and said, we've gone far enough and we're going to live here. And then there's another story that these people were the descendants of Navajos who had been captured by the Spanish or even by American trappers and then sold into slavery, and that these people escaped and started their own homeland here. And then the Alamo Navajos' own story is that, no, this is the land that the holy people gave us, and this is where we've always been, and this is where we're going to stay. So I've had fun using this isolated community as part of my story. This reservation is less than an hour's drive from a scientific facility known as the Very Large Array. And these are about 15 huge radio telescopes that are listening into deep space for radio signals, basically one of the things that they're looking for is, could there be life out there? So I'm having a wonderful time thinking of Navajo star lore and modern science. And the more I learn about both, the more I'm able to see some connections that I think I'll be able to explore in this new book.
Was that the array that heard the wow signal?
I think so. I think it was.
That just fascinates me.
It's been in a lot of movies, the names of which are escaping me now, but it looks like it's right out of a science fiction movie, because there is really nothing out there except this beautiful expanse of plains with mountains on the horizon, and then these big radio telescopes that are all mounted on railroad tracks so they can adjust them to listen to the night sky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, cool. Anne, do you write your title or your story first?
The story. Usually the title is the hardest thing for me to come up with. So the title of this one now is Book 6. But the other ones were Book 5, Book 4, Book 3. So, and then, when I come up with a title, I just rename it.
Oh, okay. Do you have any advice for authors who are just starting out?
Oh, yeah. Writing, it has to be a passion for you, I think. And it's a challenge, but it's such a wonderful way to spend your time. I would say my biggest piece of advice for beginning writers would be not to get discouraged, to remember that writing is like any skill, and the more you do it, better you'll get at it. I would say maybe my second piece of advice would be to read a lot and to read with a critical eye. When you find a passage that absorbs you, or a plot that really captures your attention, to go back and try to figure out how it was that the author did it. What were the tools that he used? And I guess a third thing I would say, I think it's good to talk about your work with other writers, but you have to be careful with that. You have to listen to advice and suggestions that other people might give you, then kind of filter them through your own imagination. What helps me the most when I'm in a stuck spot in one of my books, and I might ask one of my writer friends to talk it through with me, or maybe even to read it and see if she could help me figure it out. And what helps me is not so much her suggestions on how I could make it better as just her comments that I thought this was confusing, or it seemed you lost my attention here. I started thinking, did I leave cookies in the oven or something like that? Those kind of comments I find really helpful. And when people try to tell me how I could do it better, sometimes it's a good idea, but usually just telling me it didn't work will help me fix it. So I think those things are good for beginning writers. And also, I'd say you have to sort of look at writing as a job. It's important to you. You have to make time for it. I know when I was working on my first book, I had a very rigid schedule. I would get up in the morning and I would turn off the phone and write in my office for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, depending depending on how much inspiration I had. And I think that schedule really helped me to just keep my momentum going.
Okay.
So, and I could probably think of other stuff, but that's plenty. You don't want to overwhelm those new writers.
Right.
Now, will we see you at Malice Domestic this year?
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. Yes, I'm going to be on a panel. It's about women in law enforcement. And I can't remember exactly when, but the Malice schedule is so good. If anybody is interested, they can look it up. And then Malice also has a program that's like speed dating for authors. Because there's so many authors, they do a lottery, but this year they picked me, so I get to do that too. Yeah, I love Malice. The fans there are so wonderful. And it always recharges my batteries to go and meet people who tell me that they used to know my dad and they read all his books. Or sometimes people give me great ideas too. They'll say, oh, I worked for the Indian Health Service, and did you ever think about setting a book in such and such a site? So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Malice.
We are too. This is our first year and we are just thrilled to be able to go. We're working it, but we're also fans. So
yes,
we're going to be thrilled to meet you and all the other authors.
Well, I will look for you. This will be great.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. Well, Anne, we thank you so much for talking with us today and to appear in our podcast. And we wish you all the luck in the future. And we're looking forward to your next adventure with Mr. Leaphorn and Mr. Chee and
Ms.
Manuelito. We hope you have an enjoyable rest of your day in your garden, and thank your dog.
Oh, thank you so much for selecting me and for spending time with me. I'm really honored to be part of your podcast.
We are big fans. All right. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a great interview. We have always been huge fans of hers.
I'm very sorry we didn't get a chance to catch up with her at Malice. And she was in and out, and we just never were in the same place at the same time.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next year. I love the way she has grown her character of Bernie. Bernie was in the books her father wrote. She was just a character who they mentioned once in a while.
She's a minor character.
Very minor. Anne has taken that character and drawn her in a whole new light and made her almost the star, but at least on equal footing with Jim Chee and Leaphorn. It's very well done, and I love the way she weaves the Indian traditions into her stories and the historical things that have gone on in the Southwest. Look forward to those books when they come out.
And I really enjoy the location of the Southwest. She does such a good job of taking you there and making you experience what it's like, the dryness. I mean, I've never been there, and
I've been through there.
Well, she will have Jim Chee or Joe Leaphorn stop on the side of the road to enjoy the sunset. I would love to be able to see the sunset from that part of the world. I have never been, but it makes
bucket list.
Road trip. A little long for us to go on a road trip. When you read her stories and the storyline takes you into the desert, like in Cave of Bones, when the kids were walking through the desert looking for this cave, you could feel the heat coming up from.
Absolutely.
I mean, you felt hot just reading this story, and it was just so well done. Anne does a masterful job.
Now we're going to move on to talk about us attending Malice Domestic.
We can't say enough about Malice Domestic. It is one of the most wonderful conferences we have ever attended. I just can't say enough about it.
Well, I think that really says a lot about the Malice team, that they put together a really class show.
They do.
It was so well run.
Yes, very well organized. You knew if something said it was going to start at this time and end happened at this time. That's exactly what happened. You could count on everything.
And you could go from one event to the next seamlessly.
I was really impressed with the fact that there were not just writers, there were readers. We're such huge fans, and the writers and the readers intermingled, and it was just a beautiful thing.
Well, it was so nice to be in a group where they were so welcoming. They weren't standoffish. We saw authors that were world famous. They just treated you like you were a long-lost relative. They weren't, I am an author, leave me alone. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just wonderful. We could stalk them as much as we wanted.
It was like our little piece of heaven.
Yes, it was.
There are too many people for us to thank each one individually, but we do have a few people that we just wanted to make sure that we gave a little extra shout out to because they went over and above.
This does not mean by any means, if we don't say your name, that we don't thank you. It was just that these people just stood out a little bit extra. And the first one we want to thank is Cynthia Cerisi. She is one of our patrons, and we want to thank her for her support and continued support.
And then we'd like to thank Ellen Byron, who put together a wonderful event for writers and media called the Media Mixer. We were the media mavens during the event. It was a fabulous event where we got to sit around and just chat with authors.
Thank you.
And so thank you, Ellen.
And of course, Hank Phillippe Ryan is a wonderful supporter of the community. She reached out to us with offers and suggestions on how to help us grow our little venture. So we want to especially thank Hank.
Now I have to personally thank Leslie Karst, wink wink, my buddy at the Media Mixer. She was a delight to me. I look forward to reading all of her books. I've read one so far, and she was just a delight, and I was so happy to have met her.
And then we would like to thank Edwin Hill and his partner Michael, who hosted our table at the banquet. He is just such a delight. First of all, we loved his book. We just could have spent all evening, Edwin and Michael. So thank you, Edwin.
We also need to especially thank Sean Riley Simmons and the Malice team for inviting us and for their hard work and their support organization for the Malice Domestic Conference.
And finally, I have to thank Kathy Ace, just because she's Kathy Ace.
And we love her.
We love Kathy
We absolutely love her. How can you not?
We're
love
sending
Kathy
kisses
Ace?
all the way to Canada.
Wherever she is in the world, because she's
wherever.
always traveling.
Now, at the conference, they awarded the Agatha Awards. We were very fortunate to have interviews with almost all of the nominees, but Kathy is going to tell you who the lucky winners are.
Okay, for Best Children's Young Adult Novel, Potion Problems, Just Add Magic by Cindy Callahan was the winner. For Best Short Story, there was a tie. All God's Sparrows by Leslie Budowitz in Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine. The Case of the Vanishing Professor by Tara Laskowski in Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine. For Best Nonfiction, Mastering Plot Twist by Jane Cleland was the winner. For Best First Novel, there was another tie, which was unprecedented. A Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder by Diane Freeman and Curses Boiled Again by Sherry Randall. Best Historical Novel, The Widows of Malabar Hill by Sujata Massey was the winner. And for Best Contemporary Novel, Mardi Gras Murder by Ellen Byron won that category. Congratulations to all of the winners.
This was the first year they ever had a tie, and they actually had two of them.
We cannot say enough about the banquet. The food was phenomenal. The company was phenomenal, like a well-oiled machine.
We look forward to going next year.
Yes, we do.
Ta-da! Well, we have some exciting news. We have a new patron.
Yay!
We we would like to welcome Tammy Adams as our patron. Tammy wrote a little bit about herself. She says, I'm a reader and truly enjoy mysteries, historical, contemporary, cozy, and hard-boiled. Also, film noir and World War II movies. So welcome, Tammy. We look forward to a long, fruitful relationship with you.
Yes, Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that going to Malice especially, I think that's kind of put a shot in the arm for all of us and energized us to put out a really good podcast, have quality episodes.